What if I would tell you a simple $5 a day could turn into $12,000 without lifting a finger? 4.5 years ago, I got the idea of investing $5 a day into the S&P 500 stock market. I was literally drinking a grande latte cup of Starbucks, and I thought, I wonder if I cut back on Starbucks and invest this money instead, would it actually do anything worthwhile? Now, 4.5 years later, I'm up over 40% on my investment. Now, there is a woman, and her name is Sharpe, who I think about every time I look at this account. She spent most of her career as an auditor at the IRS. She never earned more than $4,000 a year in her 23 years at the IRS. She retired in the year 1944 with a few $1,000s saved, but by the time she died in 1995 at 101, that had become $22 million. She got there by putting a modest amount of money into the general stock market and leaving it alone. Now, of course, I don't have 50 years on this account that I'm about to show you. I have 4.5, but it's running on the exact same fuel that hers did. Time left alone, which means not selling, doing the compounding for us. That's the key. Now, let me walk you through what actually happened because the line isn't a straight one up and to the right. When I started in January 2022, I would log into my investing app every single day the market was open and manually invest $5 a day. Now, today, I have it all automated, and I'll explain what that is in just a minute. But here is what you have to see. In 2022, I was losing money. Check out these numbers. By September 2022, I was negative 14%, which means I lost $195. Now, I could have easily called it off at this point, cut my losses and been like, yeah, that wasn't really a lot of fun. But I think about people like Anne who just kept going. That brings us 4.5 years later to June 2026. And instead of being negative, I'm now up 48.91%, meaning the market grew an additional $4,083.03. And that's money that the market returned, meaning that my total account balance is now sitting at $12,430.65 at the end of June. I'm about to show you July. The thing is, here we are sitting here. I mean, $5 is so easy to spend sometimes. It was almost noise to me. But now here I am with $12,000. If you followed me from the beginning of this challenge, let me know how your account is doing in the comments down below, and let's inspire some more people who are checking out this video. But make sure you hold on because I'm going to give you the latest data that I have, including the dividends reinvested, which is actually not shown on the sheet that we're looking at. Now, this graph also shows you that the longer you hold and continue to contribute, represented by that blue line, the more your investment grows, represented by the green line. Now, of course, if you look at the early years, it's kind of sad looking. There's like barely any green, a whole lot of blue, but as time goes on, that gap is starting to widen. And the wider you let that gap go, the more it helps when we do have market corrections. And of course, when you decide to start withdrawing that money, taking that money out, selling so that you can live off that money and apply it to your everyday life. Now, I mentioned a little earlier that I automated this $5 a day. And how I did that was by setting up recurring investments. So most investing apps now let you do this automatically. So every day it goes in and buys. But since the stock market isn't open every single day of the year, I had to calculate what $5 a day would be spread across that entire year. Now, here's the quick calculation that you'll want to run. This means that because of this calculation, I invest $7.24, and that equals out to $5 every single day of any given year. Now, before I show you the account, let's chat dividends really quick because an ETF like VOO pays dividends thanks to the activities of the underlying companies within the index. Check out these dividend payments. Now, in the early days, you can see here in 2022, I was just starting, didn't own a lot of shares at that time. Not a lot to be excited about, but as I continued to grow this account, $29 in dividends, and now $35, and that's every 3 months. Now, I opt to reinvest the dividends, so I saved this part of the video for this point because it's very important. There are some good points that are made in the comments of my past $5 a day videos, and I'm going to address them today. The first one is, this really isn't a lot of money. Only $12,000 in total after 4.5 years. And the second comment I often get is, yeah, but $5 a day is $152 or more per month. And most people do not have an extra $100+ a month to invest. And I'm going to start with the first one. If you're just starting off with investing, $5 a day is a great place to start outside of your company 401k. Think about the percentage I shared with you, 48.91%. Now, if I was investing $100 or $1,000 a day, of course, I just take that 48% and I'd be up a lot more money. The point isn't the dollar figure, it's how awesome that growth percentage is. If you can afford to invest more money, 48% is still a great return on your money in a short period of time. But if you have kids, here's what I want you to think about. Unlike us, I'll call us wiser people, the younger people have a lot of time on their hands. Have them watch this part of the video. If you're, say, like 15 years old and your parents can help you out in starting off, you continue to do this until the age of 65, $5 a day with an inflation-adjusted return of 8%, you would have $1.1 million at retirement. And all it took was about $5 a day or $153.71 per month invested to get you to 1.1 million. That number is inflation adjusted. That's why it's 8% instead of 10% return. So get out there and get it done. The earlier, the better. But let's take a look at July before I address the second comment. It's now early July 2026, 4.5 years later, and here is what I have in my account. Now, I'm recording this on a day that the stock market is closed, so everything will be kind of frozen. So notice the difference between this and the sheet, which I updated in June. Of course, the first couple of days of July have been positive, which is wonderful. 18.43 total shares built up at a market value of now 12,634. The reason that is higher is not because the market blew up and went to the moon in the first 2 days of July by any means. What that is the dividends reinvested. That's the point I was showing you earlier. If you take all the dividends, we reinvest it, that's going to increase your market value. But the sheet that I shared earlier, what I'm doing is I'm only tracking, even though we could argue dividends is part of growth, but I'm only tracking the money I put in and the actual growth based on the end of month total price of VOO. But before we move on, we got to talk about that second comment because this is a big one. And I actually get this one more than the first comment. And that is there are a lot of people who cannot afford the $152 a month. Now, this is not a blanket one size fits all, but my hope is you invest in your future in some way. Maybe it's only $1 a day or $30 a month or something. Just start with something. But for those who are just hard stopping on a number, and yet, let me give you some tough love here. We look at your driveway and we see a BMW sitting there. I want to talk seriously. An average new car payment is $770 a month. The average cost to dine out for most Americans are $329 a month. Subscriptions are averaging $219 a month. And even the coffee shop habit on average, $90 a month. That was my point as I was staring down at my Starbucks coffee that one morning. Literally, I used to have at least one, if not two, Starbucks per day back when I was working. The idea is to cut out that one thing of your life and take that money instead and invest it into your future. Why? Because you're worth it. And your future self will thank you massively. The other point is this one though, don't just get stuck on $5 a day. Even though I'm doing this to show my own results, starting with $5 a day should eventually become more. When you get raises, promotions, you start cutting your expenses, and other great things that happen to you, think about increasing the amount of which that you invest every month. Even $200 a month to $500 a month or more can get you to financial independence that most people who ignore this will only dream about in the future. Think about Anne, never made over $4,000 a year, and that's equivalent to $53,000 a year today, but she still became a millionaire. You don't need to make $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year. Your financial adventure will continue by watching this video next. Keep building your Sharpe money, and I'll see you on the next video.